Welcome to the DX Today Expert Report. Today, we're diving into a massive shift in the dental industry, moving from what we've known as digital dentistry into a new era of autonomy. We are talking about the rise of agentic AI.
It is good to be here, Alex. And you're right, autonomy is the key word. For the last 10 years, we've been digitizing analog processes, scanning instead of taking impressions, milling instead of casting. But the next decade is going to be defined by software that doesn't just digitize data, but actually acts on it.
That is a significant distinction. Most people hear AI in dentistry, and they think of those bounding boxes on an X-ray that highlight a cavity. But this report suggests we're moving well beyond that.
Exactly. That is what we call assisted AI, or augmented intelligence. That was version 3.0. It helps the human see better. It says, hey doctor, look at tooth number 30. I think there is a cavity here. What we are seeing now, entering 2026, is agentic AI. An agent is goal-directed. It doesn't wait for a command.
So instead of just spotting the issue, the agent takes the next steps?
Precisely. An agent says, I detected caries on tooth 30. I cross-referenced the patient's insurance coverage for a composite restoration. I checked your schedule for a 45-minute opening, and I've already drafted the treatment plan code in the practice management software for your approval. It is the difference between a passive assistant and an active orchestrator.
That is a fundamental change in workflow. And looking at the market data in this report, the money is following this trend. We are looking at a projected market valuation of $1.3 billion by the end of 2026.
That growth is being driven by necessity. We have chronic staffing shortages, specifically with hygienists and front office staff in the US and Europe. Practices are forced to find automation solutions. Then you have the consolidation of DSOs, dental support organizations. When you have hundreds of clinics, you need standardization. You can't have a diagnosis in Florida looking completely different from a diagnosis in Oregon. Agentic AI provides those guardrails.
Let's break down the technology a bit, because this isn't just magic. The report mentions a specific architecture, the vision action loop. How does that actually function in a clinical setting?
It combines computer vision with large language models. Think of it as the eye and the brain. The eye, which utilizes convolutional neural networks, or CNNs, analyzes the raw data, like a CBCT scan or an X-ray. A great example of this is a company called Diagnocat. Their algorithms can segment a 3D CBCT scan into individual files, teeth, bone, nerve, sinus, in under 5 minutes. That takes a human hours.
So that is the eye. What about the brain and the hand?
The brain is the reasoning layer. It takes those visual findings and cross-references them with clinical guidelines. It asks, is this radiolucency deep enough to require intervention? Then comes the hand, or the action. In the digital world, that means writing the treatment plan or generating a pre-authorization request. In the physical world, we are talking about robotics.
Like the it.We system by Neocis?
Exactly. That is a robotic system for implant surgery. It is a physical agent. It uses haptic feedback to physically constrain the surgeon's drill to the planned trajectory. If the patient moves, the robot adjusts instantly. It ensures the drill doesn't go where it shouldn't.
That brings us to another fascinating application mentioned here, generative design. This seems to be where companies like Relu are making waves.
Relu is a standout example of that one-click autonomy. They utilize AI to transform raw CBCT data into surgical guides. The agent identifies a missing tooth, analyzes the bone density and the opposing teeth, proposes the optimal implant position, and actually generates the printable STL file for the surgical guide.
And that is happening autonomously?
Pending clinician sign-off, yes. It turns a complex design task into a review task.
I want to look at the concrete evidence here. We have 3 major case studies in this report. Let's start with the RAND Center for Dentistry and their work with Pearl AI.
This was a classic case of inconsistency. They are a large practice in New Jersey. They had junior clinicians who weren't confident, and their periodontal diagnosis rates were low, around 7%. They implemented Pearl's second opinion software, which acts as an always-on auditor.
And the impact?
Their periodontal diagnosis rate doubled to 14%.
But the mechanism is what matters. The AI provided objective visual evidence, colorized pathologies on the screen. It shifted the conversation with the patient from, "This is my opinion as a dentist," to, "Here is the objective fact shown by the computer." That builds massive trust.
It validates the doctor's diagnosis. The second case study is on a much larger scale: Aspen Dental and VideaHealth.
Aspen is one of the largest DSOs in the US. They rolled out VideaAI network-wide. The immediate impact was a 12% jump in treatment acceptance in their pilot offices. Because the AI pre-analyzed the images before the patient even sat in the chair, the hygiene teams could co-diagnose more effectively. It standardized the care across the network.
And the third case involves that robotic system we mentioned, it.We by Neocis.
This is regarding full arch implant cases, what we call all-on-X. These are risky, expensive surgeries. The it.We robot allows for what's called flapless surgery because the precision is so high. You don't have to cut the gums open as wide to see the bone because the robot knows exactly where the bone is. That means less pain and faster healing for the patient.
Those are clinical outcomes, but the report also touches on the operational side. You mentioned staffing shortages earlier. How are operational agents filling that gap?
This is the front desk bottleneck. You have phones ringing and nobody to answer them. We are seeing AI receptionists like Agent and TrueLark. These aren't just chatbots. They autonomously negotiate schedule gaps. If a patient cancels, the agent texts a waitlisted patient, offers the slot, confirms it, and updates the schedule, all without a human lifting a finger.
That sounds incredible, but we have to talk about the risks. This report highlights black box liability. If an autonomous agent designs a surgical guide and it fails, who is responsible?
That is the big question. Currently, the human-in-the-loop model is the legal standard. The dentist is the final signatory. But the report warns about automation bias. That is when the AI gets so good that the doctor stops checking it carefully. They just click approve. That is a critical risk area.
And I assume regulation is tight?
Very. The FDA regulates this as software as a medical device. Companies like Overjet and Pearl have cleared the 510 process for diagnostics, but generative AI, autonomous treatment planning, faces stricter scrutiny. Relu recently achieved CE certification in Europe, which is a major milestone, but the regulatory bar is high.
There is also the privacy aspect, HIPAA compliance.
Absolutely. You cannot dump patient data into a public large language model like standard ChatGPT. That is a violation. Enterprise agents use private, encrypted instances with business associate agreements in place.
Looking ahead, the report outlines a vision for 2030, the self-driving practice. What does that look like?
It's an end-to-end loop. Before the patient arrives, an agent verifies insurance and collects the copay estimate. During the visit, diagnostic AI populates the chart, generative AI designs the crown, and a robotic arm mills it. Post-visit, an agent schedules the follow-up and monitors healing via dental selfie apps.
And for the practice owners listening, or the DSOs, what is the strategic move right now?
Don't wait. Audit your tech stack. If you are using dumb booking tools, swap them for agentic schedulers like TrueLark immediately to capture that missed revenue. On the clinical side, implement a diagnostic AI layer like Pearl, Videa, or Overjet. It's becoming the standard of care. If you don't have it, you are exposing yourself to liability and missing production.
And for the investors or tech vendors tuning in?
Action, not just vision. The market is saturated with caries detection. The next unicorn is the company that automates the write-back into the practice management software. The agent that can seamlessly write into the patient chart, not just read from it, is the one that wins.
From assisted intelligence to agentic intelligence, it certainly feels like the industry's turning a corner. Mike, thank you for walking us through this report.
My pleasure, Alex.
And thank you for listening to the DX Today Expert Report. We will see you next time.